please speak about the influence of the African diaspora on your work in relationship to your myriad ancestral works, your Mojo works and your Grigri box, for example. Can you expound on those?
From the phrenology and palmistry things, then I began to become more interested in symbols that directly related to Africa and maybe Southeast Asia. And I participated in an event called Festax in Nigeria, and we would go after, during the day when there were no activities that we wanted to do, we would go on field trips into different villages and things like that. And I would find things. One of them was a trip to Betye, I think that's called, which was like a deportation place where the slaves were brought, and then, they had to jump into the boat and they were sailed away. So I had sort of visually experienced that, and that was of deep interest to me. And then it seemed to sort of merge into like the Liberation series, into the series of using derogatory images. And currently, the things that I'm working on now blend all those elements together, from the magical things of their own rituals in Africa, to the slave ship, to being a slave, to being a darky or a minstrel singer or whatever, to the role that was thrust upon them when they came to this country.
Well, excuse me, Ms. Saar, will you go back to the women who jumped onto the boat? Again, will you expound on that? Did I hear you say that this...
And it was a slave thing. They were held underneath this building in chains, and then when the ships came in, it was probably a smaller ship that took them out to a larger ship at sea. There are two places that I've seen this. This one place was the first trip to Nigeria. The second place was to Senegal, where there is just a window and like a 20-foot drop. Have you seen that?
Yes, I have been to Senegal, to the slave house there.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, where the slaves were marched to this stone window opening,
right,
jumped off, and then they had to swim to save their lives to get to the ship that would take them to the larger ship.
I just wanted you to clarify that for those who didn't know. Yes, okay. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Those were two personal experiences of seeing that, which meant that I didn't really begin with Adam and Eve. I began with right there, right at that point.
That's right.
And visually, the diagram of the slave ship is very interesting to me. This sort of elongated oval with all the bodies chained to each other, with the children in the center, the men on one side, the women on the other side. So that has become a real example of my visual language in creating art, of using the slave ship. Like, this is a story, this is where it starts, maybe from a tribal activity or African sculpture, to the diaspora slave ship, to wherever they left the ship, in the Caribbean, in Brazil, or whatever, the United States, and then what they had to become when they were there, where they were like Aunt Jemima and all those things, and then from Aunt Jemima to what,
Yes. So your work really has covered the history of African people, African-blooded people.
That's right.
Yes, from the beginning when they were enslaved until
before the beginning.
Before the beginning.
To the ritual carved figure of what they were,
That's right. Yes.
The new series that I'm working on now is called Migrations and Transformations, and that's the migration from the ritual or the life in Africa through the slave ship to the diaspora,
yes,
to the United States, and where does it go?